Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to our lecturer, Madam Misa Pura binti Muhammad Sazili and also fellow friends. So today we are from group 3. We present regarding Alphabet 8, Reorganize Google. But before we start, let me introduce myself and also group members. My name is Nurul Fitria binti Kamal Hashim and my fellow group members are Jabbar Iskandar bin Alkma Bushira and also Nur Adirana binti Muhammad Nizam. Let us start with two background switch. First, I will give an overview of Alphabet Inc. and next one is background of Google. On October 2, 2015, Alphabet became the parent company of Google and its diverse set of business with no business operations of its own. This restructuring was carried out in accordance with Delaware General Corporation Law, Section 251, Subsection G, according to which, without the consent of its shareholders, any company incorporated in the states may create and also merge with its parent company. Google created Alphabet Holding as a wholly owned subsidiary, subject to Section 251 Subsection G of the DGCL. Therefore, Alphabet merged with Maple Technologies as a merger sub to form Google Merger Sub. Additionally, the business has been divided into two reporting segments. The first one is Other Bets, and second one is Google. Google includes hardware items like Chromecast, Chromebooks, and also Nexus, in as well as search, ads, commerce, maps, YouTube, cloud, Android, and also Chrome. Access or Google Fiber, Nest, Verily, and also other projects were among the other bets. Moving on to the background of Google. Google operates in the non-traditional advertising industry, so Google began out as only a search engine but has now expanded into other technologies. Every brand or business certainly has its own vision and mission, and Google introduced developments that align with these goals each year. For instance, Google was introduced in 2004, next followed Google Maps and Earth in 2005, and YouTube in 2006. Additionally, by 2007, Google had shifted its focus to operating system, acquiring Android before releasing Chrome as an open source browser in 2008. This is according to the Rec City in 2016. Google's vision is to provide access to the world's information in one click. This statement is very consistent with Google's own mission, where they want to be a global source of information. One click highlights our effectiveness and convenience. Google aim is to remove barriers between users and also access the information they need. In fact, Google's vision also emphasizes global reach. Furthermore, Google is trying to influence users worldwide through search, YouTube, and also Android. Next, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This mission statement represents Google's goals to become a global information source. According to Heath, Island, and Hodgkinson in 2019, Alphabet 8 also aims to make sure that all information is accessible to everyone and that is provided in a way that is practicable and also actionable. Furthermore, as information retrieval will continue to be crucial, this mission is highly essential for the future. This demonstrates that Google's mission focuses on a continuous goal. Let's go deeper into objective. According to the Rec City in 2016, for Google's goals as well, to push existing technologies limits to offer an accurate, fast and user-friendly service for information accessibility. Next, to push the ad system and to push the communities and content. Also, to make sure tools run everywhere. The other goal is to have the world's top artificial intelligence research laboratory. In the context of Google's core value, we can evaluate it from the point of view of innovation. According to the Google in 2026, for Google values, great isn't good enough. So Google's corporate structure focuses on encouraging innovation, creativity, and loyalty. Furthermore, managing innovation, part of culture, is also included in one of the most popular corporate values for Google. This emphasizes that innovation is an important element for them. Google supports the 70, 20, and 10 corporate culture, which means 70% for work and core businesses, while 20% is allocated on projects that extend the core, while the remaining 10% is allowing time to work on their own projects that are different from the core business. Besides that, the core value that can be seen is user focus. Focus on the user, all else will follow. This is due to the Google in 2026. Apart from managing innovation part of culture, not being evil is also included in the most popular corporate values for Google. It shows that they prioritize users' interest and trust, and it can also be linked to never settle for the best, where they try to deliver efficient and user-friendly services. When there are accessible services to the users, it will add bonus points to the Google, and this is due to the Rec City in 2016. As mentioned by Google in 2026, there's always more information. According to the Rec City in 2016, continuous improvement thus becomes a significant Google core value. Great isn't good enough, but Google 2026. Google's motto, never settle for the best, may also be related to the company's constant efforts to ensure that changes and also improvement will always occur to improve its products, services, and also performance. From another perspective, Google also used the 70, 20, and 10 company culture to drive continuous improvement. Although Google did not have the best pay perks, they replaced them with attractive benefits. This contributes to improvement in terms of workplace satisfaction and retained talent.
Now, I would like to discuss the main issue faced by the Google from before 2015 until 2018, followed by the purposes of this case study. Before 2015, Google expanded aggressively into many areas such as artificial intelligence, life science, and robotics, and self-driving cars. However, this created a major issue because the company became too diversified. Investors were concerned that Google was losing focus on its core business, which was search and digital advertising. There was also limited transparency regarding how much money was being spent on these experimental projects. In short, the main issue before 2015 was organizational complexity and lack of strategic focus. In 2015, Google responded to this challenge by creating Alphabet Incorporation as a holding company. This restructuring separated Google core businesses from its experimental ventures. The objective was to improve transparency, accountability, and strategic control. Therefore, 2015 represents a positive turning point because the company introduced a new organizational structure to solve the early problem. In 2016, Alphabet began reporting financial results separately. Investors could clearly see that the other bad segment was generating significant losses while producing relatively low revenue. Although these projects were intended for future growth, shareholders questioned whether the high spending was sustainable. So the main issue in 2016 was balancing innovation with profitability. In 2018, Alphabet continued investing heavily in cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and other future technology. While revenue grew, operational costs also increased, causing concern among investors about the profit margins and the long-term return to this investment. Thus, the main issue in 2018 was maintaining long-term growth while controlling rising. First, the case helped us understand how Alphabet used corporate-level strategy to manage a diversified business portfolio. The restructuring showed how a company can separate core businesses from high-risk ventures. Second, the case demonstrates how Alphabet balanced innovation and profitability. It allows us to analyze how large companies manage long-term innovative projects while still protecting their main source of income. Third, the case illustrated the importance of corporate governance by creating Alphabet. The company improved transparency, accountability, and financial reporting while increasing investor confidence. Fourth, the case helped us evaluate whether the new organizational structure improved strategic control, operational efficiency, and business performance. Fifth, the case explained how Alphabet maintains competitive advantage in the digital advertising, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence while preparing for future technological changes. Finally, the case allows us to apply several strategic management theories, including corporate level strategy, diversification theory, agency theory, the resources-based view, and organizational structure theory. That's all. Now I will discuss the general environment that influenced Alphabet restructuring using the Bester framework. The general environment refers to the external factors that affect a company but are beyond its control. Understanding these factors help organizations identify opportunity and threats and make better strategic decisions. First, let's look at the technological environment. In 2015, rapid advancement in artificial intelligence, cloud computing, mobile technology, autonomous vehicle, and digital platform create significant changes in the technology industry. Google was not only managed its core businesses such as search, Android, YouTube, and advertising, but was also investing in innovative projects like Waymo, Verily, and Nest. Managing these diverse businesses under one structure became increasingly complex. Therefore, Alphabet was created to separate Google profitable core businesses from its experimental ventures. This improved management focus, accountability, and operational efficiency while allowing continued investment in a long-term innovation. It also increased transparency for investors who were concerned about spending on high-risk moonshot projects. Next is the political and legal environment. As the Google become more dominant globally, it faced increased scrutiny from government and regulators. Major concerns include antitrust issue, market dominance, and data privacy and taxation. Regulators in the United States and Europe investigate whether the Google was limiting competition, while growing concern about the user privacy increased legal and compliance pressure. The Alphabet restructuring helped improve transparency and corporate governance by separating business segment and making financial reporting clearer. This allowed regulators and investors to better evaluate the company operation and risk of exposure. Moving on to the social, cultural, and demographic environment, society has become increasingly dependent on the digital technology for communication, entertainment, education, and information. This increased demand for Google services such as a search, YouTube, Gmail, and Google Maps. At the same time, consumers expect faster and more personalized digital experience. However, social concern about the privacy, misinformation, and the ethical technology also increased. Alphabet had to balance innovation with the responsible business practices to maintain a public trust. Finally, from a demographic perspective, increasing internet penetration, smartphone adoption, and a growing young population create significant growth opportunities. Youngest consumers are highly dependent on the digital technology, which support the long-term demand for Alphabet product and services. However, Alphabet must continue adapting its offering to meet the needs of diverse users across different countries and cultures.
Now I will move to the industry analysis of Alphabet using Portal 5 forces, which help evaluate how competitive and attractive the technology and internet services industry is. Overall, this framework shows that Alphabet operate in an industry with intense rivalry, high entry barriers, growing substitution risk, strong pressure from buyer and supplier, and constant innovation demand. First, rivalry among existing competitors is very intense. Alphabet competes directly with major technology firms such as Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta across research, cloud computing, AI, digital advertising, and digital content platform. This rivalry is threatened by the high fixed costs in data center, AI research, and infrastructure, which force firms to continuously chase user and advertising revenue in order to cover their investment. In this case, this pressure is reflected in the expectation that Google must keep growing and defending its leadership in search and advertising even while investing in a new technology. The old Google structure bundle many unrelevant ventures under one management team, which can creating slow decision making and limited transparency, which made it harder to respond quickly to competitors. By restructuring into Alphabet, the company separated Google's core business from the other bets, allowing the Google subsidiaries to focus on core market while other units pursue long-term innovation. This sharper focus and clearer accountability strengthen Alphabet's ability to compete in a highly rivalrous industry. Second, the threat of new entrant is relatively low in the short term because barriers to entry are very high. A successful search or advertising platform requires enormous investment in computing infrastructure, advanced algorithm, global data, and strong brand recognition. Network effect also protect Alphabet position because more users generate more data, which improves services and attract even more users. However, the case also show that the technology industry can be disrupted by the new digital platform and AI-based services over time. Alphabet heavy investment in moonshot projects such as self-driving cars, life science, smart home devices, and high-speed internet. Therefore, it can be seen as a response to the long-term trend, helping the company build future barriers to the entry before others dominate those industries. The Alphabet structure support this strategy by allowing such high-risk projects to remain in separate subsidiaries without weakening the profitability of the core businesses. Third, the threat of substitute for Alphabet core services is moderate and rising. For advertisers, substitute include traditional media and increasingly other digital platforms such as social network, e-commerce site, and streaming services. For user, substitute for Google search and other services include specialized app, voice assistant, and alternative source of information such as social media and direct platform search. The case explained that Google leader did not want the company to be seen as just a search company because depending on one core product will be risky in such a dynamic environment. Diversification into Android, YouTube, Nest, Verily, Sidewalk Lab, Fiber, and Project Loon can be understood as Alphabet creating its own substitute and complementary businesses before external substitute. Weaken its core. The Alphabet structure formalized this by placing this activity into other bets, allowing them to grow independently and reduce the firm dependence on any single product. Fourth, in the bargaining power of buyer is mixed but important. Individual users have low power, but large advertisers and investors can exert much stronger influence because they can spending or demand a clearer performance and accountability. profitability. In the case, shareholder analysis become increasingly unhappy that profit from the search and advertising businesses were being plugged into the Vogue Innovation Project while with the little reporting, and they found it difficult to evaluate the performance of the different parts of the company. This reflects strong bargaining pressure from powerful stakeholders. Alphabet restructuring directly addressed this force by creating a holding company with two reporting segments, which is Google and other bets, and by publishing more detailed financial information. This improved transparency and accountability, made it easier for investor and advertiser to assess performance and risk while still allowing Alphabet to keep investing in innovation. Finally, the bargaining power of suppliers also matter for Alphabet. Key suppliers include high-skilled human capital such as engineer, AI researcher, and product designer, as well as hardware manufacturer, chip maker, and telecom or infrastructure partner. Top technical talent has high bargaining power because it is a strongly demand across the technology industry. So, Alphabet must offer attractive compensation autonomy and meaningful work to retain it. The case show that Google's old centralized structure, creating slow decision making and bottleneck, which could demotivate leader and reduce the effective use of talent. By reorganizing into Alphabet and allowing many ventures to operate as separate subsidiary with their own CEO and a greater independence, the company improved its value proposition to talented employees and managers. This helped Alphabet cope with the high bargaining power of critical supplier and support innovation across multiple business areas. Overall, Portal 5 forces show that Alphabet operates in a highly competitive industry with a strong pressure from rivals, buyer, suppliers, substitute, and future entrants, but it restructuring into Alphabet, which improve focus, transparency, and strategic flexibility. The external factor evaluation metric is a strategic tool used to evaluate the external opportunities and track the influence Alphabet business and assess how effectively the company respond to them. Starting with the opportunity, the most significant is the growth of artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, which received the highest weight score of 0.60. Alphabet's strong investment in AI enhances products such as Google Search, digital advertising, and automation, while creating long-term growth opportunities. The second opportunity is the expansion of cloud computing services, with the weight score of 0.48 through Google Cloud. Alphabet diversify its businesses beyond advertising and benefit from the increasing demand for digital transformation and cloud services. Another key opportunity is the growing number of global internet and smartphone users with a weight score of 0.40. This increases demand for the platforms such as Google Search, Android, YouTube, and Google Maps, allowing Alphabet to expand its customer base and strengthen its position in the market. In addition, Alphabet is expanding into autonomous vehicles technology through Waymo and healthcare technology through Verily. These initiatives support diversification and provide long-term growth potential in emerging industry. Turning to the threats, the biggest challenge is intense competition from companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple with a weight score of 0.45. To maintain its competitive advantage, Alphabet must continue innovating across AI, cloud computing, and digital services. The company also faces increasing government regulation and antitrust investigation, cybersecurity and data privacy risks, high research and development costs, and rapid technology change. This factor may increase costs, create legal challenges, and require continuous investment to remain competitive. Overall, Alphabet achieved a total weight score of 3.18 in the EFE metric. This indicates that the company has a strong external strategic position and is effectively leveraging opportunities while managing external threats. Next, we're moving on to the internal factor evaluation, which is IFE metric, which evaluate the company internal strength and weaknesses. Based on our analysis, Alphabet achieved a total weight score of 3.21. Since the score is average, the benchmark which is 2.5, it indicates that Alphabet has a strong internal strategic position where its strengths outweigh its weaknesses. Looking at the strength, one major strength is Alphabet's broad range of digital products and services, which including Google Search, YouTube, Android, Gmail, and Google Cloud. This extensive ecosystem allows the company to serve different customer segments worldwide while generating revenue from multiple sources. Another important strength is its diversified business structure. Those Alphabet's restructuring, the company separates its core businesses from experimental ventures such as Waymo, Verily, and Google Fiber. This helps improve management efficiency while creating opportunity for future growth. In addition, Alphabet benefit from a strong global brand portfolio. Brands such as Google, YouTube, Android, and Gmail are recognized worldwide, strengthening customer trust, market influence, and competitive advantage. The highest scoring strength is Alphabet dominance in the search engine and mobile operating system market through Google Search and Android. This leadership position generates a substantial advertising revenue and reinforces the company's technological leadership. However, several weaknesses were identified. These include transparency issues regarding financial reporting before restructuring, high dependency on advertising revenue, and the significant costs and risks associated with investment in experimental project known as other bets. Overall, despite these challenges, Alphabet's strong innovation capabilities, technological leadership, and diversified operation enable the company to maintain strong internal position, as reflected by its IFE score of 3.21. Next, I will present the competitive profile matrix, which is CPM. The CPM is used to compare Alphabet's competitive position against its major competitors, namely Microsoft and Meta platform, based on several critical success factors. Based on analysis, Alphabet achieved the highest total weight score of 3.90 compared to the Microsoft, which is 3.21, and Meta platform 2.84. This indicates that Alphabet holds the strongest competitive position among the selected firm. One of the Alphabet key strengths is the dominance in search engines and digital advertising. Google Search remains the company's primary source of the revenue and continue to generate strong, profitable, and global market leadership. Another important strength is its strong market share and global reach. Through products such as Google Search, YouTube, Android, Gmail, and Google Maps, Alphabet serves a billion of users worldwide and has built a highly integrated digital ecosystem. Alphabet also benefits from a strong financial resource and continue investment in innovation. The company also invests heavily in artificial intelligence, cloud computing, autonomous driving technology, and healthcare technology through subsidiaries such as Waymo and Verily. In comparison, Microsoft remains a strong competitor, particularly in cloud computing, enterprise software, and AI. However, Alphabet maintains a stronger position in search engine, digital advertising, and mobile operating system. Meta platform is another major competitor in digital advertising and social media through platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and even WhatsApp. However, Meta has a lower level of diversification and less integrated technology ecosystem compared to the Alphabet.
Next, I will present the SWOT analysis of Alphabet Inc., which evaluates the company's internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as external opportunities and threats. Starting with the strengths, Alphabet's greatest strength is its dominance in search engines and mobile operating systems through Google Search and Android. These platforms provide strong market power, a large global user base, and substantial advertising revenue. Another key strength is its diversified business portfolio, where subsidiaries such as Waymo, Verily, and Google Fiber allow the company to pursue future growth opportunities beyond its core business. In addition, Alphabet benefits from a strong brand portfolio and continuous innovation through significant investments in research and development. Moving on to the weaknesses, Alphabet remains highly dependent on advertising revenue, which makes the company vulnerable to fluctuations in advertising demand and market conditions. Another weakness involved transparency concern that existed before the restructuring into Alphabet, where investors found it difficult to distinguish between profitable businesses and experimental projects. Furthermore, Alphabet faces financial risk from its other bets investments, such as Waymo and Verily, which require substantial funding and may not generate immediate returns.
For the opportunity part, the rapid growth of AI presents significant potential for Alphabet to improve its product, digital advertising, cloud services, and future technologies. The cloud expansion of cloud computing services also provide opportunity to diversify revenue source beyond advertising. Additionally, emerging industries such as autonomous vehicles and healthcare technology offer strong long-term growth potential. However, Alphabet also faces several threats, which these include intense competition from major technology companies such as Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta. The company also subject to increasing regulatory and antitrust scrutiny from governments worldwide. Finally, rapid technology change requires Alphabet to continuously innovate in order to maintain its competitive position. Overall, the SWOT analysis show that Alphabet possesses strong internal capabilities and significant growth opportunities. However, the company must continue managing its dependence on advertising revenue, high-risk investment, and increasing competitive and regulatory pressure to sustain its long-term success.